We make headphones. And so a question we get asked quite often is, what do you care about in a headphone system? So we figured we'd take this opportunity to have a little chat about what we look for in headphones and broadly a headphone system.
Yeah, and in a lot of respects, it'll help people to understand why we design headphones the way we do too.
Yeah, why we are who we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of let's start with it. Just think about over a general topic. A lot of a company's DNA is based on 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 the guys that run it, right?
Well, a company is a collection of people. And so, of course, the personality of the people to some extent is reflected in the final product you see as a consumer. And we're a rather small company. So maybe you'll get a little bit more of that transfer than you would in a big company with 10,000 people.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think the best thing to do is we'll just talk about each other's our
Yep.
feelings. Like, what do we like in a headphone? What do we look for in the sound of a headphone? And I know initially when Abyss started, all right, I wanted to make it sound like my 2-channel system with subs. The whole idea was to make a headphone that sounded like a big high-end 2-channel system. And that was that's where the 1266 came about from, right? Which we still have today.
Yeah, well, I guess kind of building on that, it seems like starting with 1266, clamp force was always a thing that we always wanted almost
Eliminate.
none.
Yeah.
And the thing is, then you realize when we went to Diana, we realized, well, we wanted something more conventional, but we still wanted that light clamping force. But some people just prefer the heavy clamping, but we all pretty much prefer light, right? I'd say.
It depends on how you want to use the headphone. If you're wearing it out and about,
Sure.
you kind of need a little bit of clamp, right? You want it to feel confident and your head
Or
is
if
not
it's
going to
like
fall off.
a closed back that's noise canceling or something, obviously you need it to clamp pretty well.
For me personally, I would rather have the headphone disappear and I'm in a static environment for the most part. So you could get away with pretty low clamping. And I would say overall, though, the more important thing is really kind of like the why behind the headphone, why this product exists, why it was manufactured. And you could oftentimes learn a lot about the product if you understand why it was made. And sometimes the answer is simple. It could just be to make a headphone, to make money, to sell. That's maybe a little unfortunate because you often don't see the care put into the product that you would if it's more of a passion project. So you compare that to what we see a lot in audio. We see small companies with passionate individuals that are striving to make what they think is their best vision of the product they're trying to accomplish, their headphone, their amplifier.
Yeah, and over time, I mean, these things evolve. Like, any company, whether it's the first product or the 10th product that they produce, there's an evolutionary process that's going on. At least you'd hope there is. Well, especially nowadays, I mean, you look at the tech available. I mean, it really, just the measurement procedures have changed dramatically over the last 10 years from, there's this strict one way to do it to, okay, now there's a little broader way. Now we're in a whole even broader range of looking at measurements and going, well, maybe there's leeway here because people all have different tastes, and that's really a part of what we're getting at here with when it comes to making headphones unlike any others, and every company makes kind of a different sound, is because people do have different wants and needs for their sound. But bottom line, I mean, that helps us too, because we design headphones and they need to fit what's you can connect them to in the marketplace. So it's great. And that also helps newer companies too. The same thing. They come in new, but more importantly, let's get back to the sound of the headphones. Like, what do we like me again, I go back to a big 2-channel system. I'm still like that. I like a big tube amp or a lot of power in a solid state amp to drive the headphone. And it's not that I'm listening at ear bleeding levels, although sometimes I can appreciate that.
Well,
But, but when I turn it up, I don't want the system to sound like it's just completely running out of steam. That's what I mean. I was always after the more of the raw energy to be able to get that out of a headphone, and it's difficult to do, and without damaging your hearing. Obviously, you want to be able to. So to me, I like a limitless amount of uh, headroom and power. It's an effortless sound, which is really what you get out of a high-powered, high-end 2-channel system.
yeah, well, it's not that big of a problem like with 1266. if you just put a lot of power at it. But as we found out with a really efficient headphone that then you put into that situation when we were testing Zeos's headphone, remember? And it
Oh
was
yeah,
like, well, this is a different, total opposite problem. It's
it
like
was like 110 dB
I can't
efficient.
go low enough on this amp.
Yeah, right.
So if you have a wide range of efficiency, yeah,
Yeah.
then you can't really have one big only headphone amp.
What shows to go you that the system synergy kind of matters
Well, yeah,
too.
sure.
Going from one system and one headphone to a totally different headphone or
Especially
system, you
on the
gotta,
extremes.
yeah.
Super efficient and
Yeah.
super inefficient.
But that's the beauty of the marketplace right now is you have choice. You can choose an amplifier to go with your favorite headphone to produce the sound you like.
Well, we saw a lot of maturing over the years in headphones, and there's pros and cons with that. Certainly, some smaller operators that were doing really niche stuff kind of fell away. But what I find most encouraging is over the years, we saw a lot of advancements in refinement of headphones. And certainly that's been the case for us as well. I think for me, that's one of the most impactful things that I see in products. And especially if the price is high, as the price moves up, you expect a certain amount of effort put into it. You expect it to be a performant product that meets all the needs and expectations you would have. And a lot of times these things are very hard to communicate just at a glance. You kind of got to live with the product to really feel and experience.
So overall for me, I just like to put headphones on and then forget out, not only am I wearing headphones, but just focus on the music. And that's actually pretty hard to find, like that ideal setup for each person. But yeah, you got to pick, especially with all the different pad options we have now, find out which are most comfortable for you and then just forget you have headphones on altogether.
But yeah, I mean, I get that, So, and subjectively, we found out that people are apart, and that's not just the sound of a headphone, but obviously the feel of it is a big factor. And it's not even necessarily overall total comfort. It's all kinds of subtle things, right?
It's a balance in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, really. And I think that's the more or less the root of this refinement that I'm talking about. It doesn't matter so much if there's an issue here as long as it's compensated for elsewhere. I mean, obviously you'd prefer it's perfect all around, but that's always not so practical. But when you get a product that you expect to perform a certain way and it doesn't, that's kind of jarring. So you kind of need the product to perform the way you expect, and you need to not have distractions from your hair dragging across it and making noises and things like this. It needs to basically perform the way you think. So you just put it on and it works. And that also transfers into the sonic characteristics. It needs to sound the way you expect, the way you wish, the way you want. People always follow what they know, what they understand, what others have done. That's a safe approach, but it often doesn't make an amazing product. So sometimes you got to add a little flair, got to make it a little goofy, maybe try something out.
Well, unless you're like Toyota, then you got to make a vehicle that appeases everybody.
Make a Camry every
Camry.
time. Yeah. Well, maybe that gives you a vague idea of what we look for and why our products look the way they are and perform the way they do. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. What people
Yeah.
out there look for in a headphone. What's the priority to them? And
Yeah, let's bring that up in comments and let's talk about it. I mean, we'd expand on this chat in the YouTube
And I'm
comments
sure
section.
everybody has their own opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. We should talk about it.
yes.
Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves.